everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and Soundcloud, and now topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. To catch updates about the podcast or for other news, give us a follow on your social media platform of choice listed in the description below. I'm your host, GM, and overseer of Podcast of Five Rings, Obsidian, joined by the wall that will not fall, Tetsuo.
I hope everybody's week was good.
Mine was most excellent.
It was all right. It was a shorter week for me, so I'm very happy with that.
Short how?
I had a Monday off.
We all had Monday off, didn't we?
Yeah, so that means it's a shorter week. That's very nice. Not everybody gets Monday off, though.
He just deleted Monday from existence.
Yeah, just delete.
Delete.
Did not need to do
I got up, I put on my reality robes, and decided, fuck Monday.
It's gone.
Just delete it. So now Tuesday's gonna become Monday.
That is the Dark Fortune Duelist meta.
Yay.
So how has Tetsuo been doing this week, then, since you asked us?
I've been doing pretty good, save all the weather issues we've been having. It's been storming and everything, which drives my sinuses nuts with the barometric pressure changes. Like, or was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. Like, it got so bad, I was having a hard time, like, just looking at things. Like, it was migraine level headaches. Just from storm pressure. It happens. That's why I hate this time of year in Florida, because storms are nuts. And as far as barometric pressure changes go.
The resident wildcard Bell, how have you been faring in that stormy Florida weather?
Oh, I love it. I like the sound of rain on everything. Otherwise, I beat Fire Emblem and started a few other games.
Nice. How'd you we're gonna after we record this, we're gonna talk about the end of that game. There's something I want to talk about with you. We'll get to that later. We're not gonna bog down the podcast with it. If you want to hear our thoughts on Fire Emblem, check out last week's episode where Mal and I talked about it for near on 20 minutes. We got.
You know what other game we have plenty to say?
Oh my god.
Mal, with that segue, you cut me off. So
Talking about Madden, right?
Yeah, it's Madden. Definitely Madden.
The 30th iteration of Madden. Mal, why don't you tell us about Madden?
How about I tell you about L5R?
Okay.
I was really excited for Madden. I don't know.
If I knew anything about Madden and stuff, I would have gone with it, but I don't.
Are you telling me that L5R is going to be a recurring theme in the podcast until Gen Con?
Might be.
At least.
Until Gen Con. You say it like we have any sign of stopping.
Hey, I can't talk about the cards if I don't have them in hand, but we'll get to that.
We will.
I got a few different things. So last Friday, they did another L5R Live, where they took some questions from Twitter and the forums, I believe. They started out with, just talking about like the fiction and the article, the gameplay article with the Crane, since it was their Spotlight Week, being the arbiters of culture, and got their fancy Kakita dueling. And talking about how they're going to have lots of ways to generate honor, and how it works into their controlling play style. With they're honorable in that they will show everything, like they have more restrictions built in, like when you can play cards, because they're showing you their plan, and then going to leverage that high honor to stop you from doing anything about it.
Yeah, I think that's something we all noticed when we were breaking down the cards and talking about them. A lot of it was like the kind of, this is coming. And they said in the stream, it's obviously, now what are you going to do to stop it? Because it's this kind of overwhelming force.
Right.
Yeah.
Political powerhouse you see right in front of you.
They also said that will not be the only way. And then they said lots of people are excited about the Daidoji Harriers.
I know exactly who they're talking about.
Oh, baby.
And that there will be more to come later. It sounded like they're like, can we say any? No, later. Okay, nothing now.
Give me that Uji card.
They established an entire style guide for each of the clans, identifying aspects, color schemes, culture notes to show off when dealing with the art. Yeah, they're talking about how they think this is their, most artistically pleasing set they've ever done. And the crane, right, obviously emphasizing delicate and highly detailed things, form over function being very important. They also now include, with every piece that goes out to an artist, emotion field, so that they can just try and directly tie in what they want each card to express emotionally. That's cool. I think Magic does similar things.
I like that idea.
Yeah, never done that before. So regarding Magic, and because a lot of their artists will describe the process and show start to finish stuff, and usually they come up with varying possibilities and then work with the art director to refine it down into what you eventually see. They next moved on. Someone asked about Kakita Asami, and if it was a reference to the first edition Topaz Adventure, which it was. She was selected due to her, I guess, relevance in possibly the new story, kind of sounded like.
Katrina liked that there was a bit of a hint with a romance between her and Kuanon.
Yeah. And that they pulled, with the character cards, I guess they pulled from the original people who were popular with the original story, and then new characters, or at least bringing them to new relevance with the FG story.
Yeah.
And that, was it Kakita Kaizen is her Yojimbo? Possibly, or one of the premier duelists of the crane.
Yeah, I believe she said that he was her Yojimbo.
Yeah. Then they went on to talk about, I guess some people were asking if Doji Hotaru's flavor text was a reference to a game of Go with Kachiko. And they were, I guess, pleased that people picked up on that.
Well, I mean, isn't Game of Go, like, I mean, I know that was kind of a thing with Winter Court, but, I mean, I thought that was kind of always something that was hinted at, like, in The Tale of Genji and, like, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. All the Winter Court shenanigans, I'm sure, were a reference to that from Winter Court 4.
Mm.
No, but I mean, like in Japanese literature of the time with the samurais and stuff, they would oftentimes use that metaphor with Go to apply romance and romantic involvement.
Well, yeah, they stated that they actually met at a Winter Court and then entertained themselves with Game of Go, and they talked about how how it'll probably play into the story, how a relationship between two high-ranking individuals of separate clans.
Gotcha.
Things will lead into that, or how and they also talked about the rule of Ko being where you can't. You have to be careful about maneuvering your pieces around the field. You could get into stuck into a loop, infinite loop, and the two of them, that they need to be able to outmaneuver each other without just being stuck in court. They went on to talk about the lion being a popular choice to splash to cover up military weakness in decks, and I guess there's a province that lets you switch conflict types. So you can use that as a surprise.
Yes, balance to the left and right hands. All according to plan.
Keikaku.
I didn't want to say it. I just want to see it meta with.
I would say it. I love that meme.
Oh, you.
Editor's note.
And then there's, of course, the dragon with their attachment focus, and then aiding and dueling aspects. That the best dueling deck is either dragon or crane splashing the other.
Seems expected.
Yeah.
If I build my deck just based off of that, you'll probably see me splash possibly lion. The lion for any honor thing based, and definitely dragon for dueling power.
Right. I didn't play the original L5R in the early days or anything, but it feels like the FFG iteration is going to be very easy to splash other clans into your deck. Like they seem to be developing it in such a way where you're not going to be as hesitant to include other factions.
Yeah, it doesn't mess up your economy as much, because you had blood money in the old game where you had to pay basically 2 more gold to splash a personality. Now it's obviously just tied to whatever your stronghold's influence value is. So
no resource messing up.
A lot simpler, yeah.
They also hit up a few gameplay questions towards the end. You can't win a conflict with 0 skill for whatever reason.
Yep, like you gotta have at least one.
Yeah, and there's also no negative. It like you can't go below 0. But if you get a boost after you would be a negative. You like recalculate.
Yep,
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the penalties aren't lessened at all if you're like force penalty down, basically.
Yeah.
Or skill penalty in the new iteration, I guess.
So like generally every other card game where you can't really go below 0.
Yeah, but there is that net value.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can. So they also talked about how you can pass a conflict, and then the next time it rolls around, you get to declare either military or political. But then after that, you won't be able to take the other that you passed earlier.
Yep. Only 2 windows for you to declare a conflict.
Yeah. So they said that it, like, I guess there are reasons for it. Like, if you want to be defensive at first, and then like you're just really focusing on one strike with one type of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And next up, if you run out of cards in a deck, you lose 5 honor for not being able or not using your resources wisely.
So you don't automatically lose if you run out of cards?
Correct.
Nah, but it does get you closer to losing.
Right.
That's true.
This actually opens up the possibility for milling style themes in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't expect anything in the base set probably, but it could be something they do down the road with Scorpion.
Yeah, I can see it.
Or even if Spider comes, or not Spider, Mantis comes around, like, stealing resources from other clans.
That would actually be pretty bloody thematic for them.
Yeah.
Pirates.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We shall see.
Yeah. So you just shuffle back your discard and use that, I guess. And you do not need to be present to take actions in a conflict at all. Like, so if you have 0 people, you can still mess with the conflict.
Yep. As long as you have actions.
Yeah.
They don't have a personality as a cost. Have a personality at the conflict, or obviously control a personality, bow a courtier / whoever. Yeah.
Obviously, Shugenja will be helpful with that.
Yep.
Is that so? That does count for even like characters that aren't at the conflict. They can take
Just normal
action.
bushy.
So you can play actions out of your hand.
Use abilities on characters. That's pretty swanky.
Yeah, but Shugenjas are going to have they're going to be the ones with the majority of the abilities that will have something that could affect the conflict without them being there.
Your artillery, if you will.
Yep. Shooting that fire from across the battlefield.
Pew pew.
They also said that no one like if you tie in a duel, it's just a tie and no one wins or loses. No loss penalties or win bonuses trigger.
Yeah. Duelist does nothing. I don't think any of the keywords do anything, is what they basically finally said.
Traits have no rules associated with them. They're just there to be like played off of, like they've talked about with Cavalry.
Yep.
So you don't have like a separate card that says move your cavalry person to the battlefield or something like that.
Yeah. Or only attach this to a certain type of duelist or something.
Begin this duel with the duelist, etc.
I think that was about it. It was a pretty short video.
Yeah, it's 25 minutes. They mostly focused on the kind of some design philosophy of the art and what we touched on here at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
Some of a few of the questions were stuff we kind of already knew that they'd answered before. So, I mean, wasn't a whole lot of meat to the video.
Right. But at the end, they did announce who was next as the character spotlight, which is what we assumed as well, and it's the lion.
Lion, yay!
It's kind of cool that they aren't going in alphabetical order.
Yeah, I like it.
It's kind of nice to see that for once.
And then
who wants to see the crab first? Am I right?
Am I right?
Shut your face!
Nobody likes a crab.
They were robbed. Robbed, I tell you.
Wrong. It's okay.
So with the announcement, they showed off their first card, and it was Kodo Gunso. It's a 2 fate character for a 2/1 with 2 glory. Has the keyword pride. After this character wins a conflict, honor it. After this character loses a conflict, dishonor it. And it has the reaction. After this character enters play from a province, refill that province face up.
That was always been a really good mechanic in the game.
Yeah.
Anytime you can refill provinces. The guy's also just costed very well. 2 fate for a 2/1 is pretty good. Then he has 2 glory. Now, obviously, the glory can be a big swingy kind of thing if he ends up losing a conflict.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of a gamble, but he fits really nicely in an aggressive style deck. I feel like that's definitely somebody who you want to use if you're going to be pushing for military victories often.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or military conflicts, I should say.
Yep, but see him and you have the potential to get 5 guys, and since Line are all about swarm, I mean, it fits their theme perfectly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would also note that, like, considering the fact that if he loses a conflict, he's at or if he wants, let me just get my point. I don't think you actually want to invest too much into this guy. You kind of want him to get in there, get that win, maybe sit around, but you kind of want him to get out before you have to force to use him to defend in a conflict that you might lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think most of the low fate characters are going to be like 1-turners, maybe like 2-turners. It's going to be like the big characters that you're going to want to invest more fate and keep around longer if possible. So, and he's especially, like you were saying, one that you want to just get in. Hopefully you can get him to win a conflict and get him honored, have him fade out, get you an honor, net you another card.
Yep.
So
Speaking of high cost of characters and military swarm and whatnot, next up we had Honored General for 4 fate. He is a 3/1 with 2 glory, and his abilities are: during a conflict in which this character is participating, each other lion character you control gets +1 military. And he has a reaction that after this character enters play, honor it.
This is the most horseshit card I've seen.
this is my favorite of all the line cards we've seen so far.
Literally the most horseshit card. Oh, okay, let me just go into this fight. By the way, all the guys that are under me, they all get stronger. Also, I just honored myself, so I'm also stronger. How would you like to die today?
Combining that with the stronghold too.
Dude, he is so good.
He's so fucking good. Oh my god.
Yeah. Enters play is a 5/3.
Yeah.
Swings and gives all your other line guys just +1 military. I mean, super good.
Should be a 5 cost.
If you can find ways to ready him, then he's a 3 political skill if they political attack you.
Yeah, he's just solid no matter where you place him.
Really good. The best card we've seen so far for line.
Yeah.
We also got a Phoenix spoiler, Know the World, which is a 1 fate event. It's a void spell, and the action is: switch a ring in your claimed ring pool with an unclaimed ring and gain all the fate in that ring. Retain the ring's conflict type.
That is actually a really useful card if nobody's been hitting a ring for a while, because I mean it costs you 1, but you could end up getting a net gain of like 1 or 2 out of that.
Yeah. I think that the extra fate's more awesome. It's just the ability that you can use a ring twice. Like we were saying last week, that's going to be a pretty powerful ability in a Hotaru, and that the Phoenix or even anyone for 3 influence can get access to. That's pretty awesome. What's weird to me is that it's an event card and it's a spell. So they're apparently, what type of card it is going to be hands off for whatever keyword it could possibly be.
Yeah.
Whereas traditionally they were attachments in the old game, which makes sense.
I don't know. I mean, like, the ring is nice, but I'm going to stick with my saying that, like, in this game, it's kind of clear that fate doesn't always seem to be an easy thing to get. So anything that can help you get a little bit more is pretty potent.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think most of the time it's only going to be like maybe 1 extra, or you'll end up even. So that's why I'm thinking it's not going to be as big a deal, but
we shall see.
Yeah, it's all happens in the actual meta.
Next up was our preview card, Honored Blade. It's a 1 fate attachment that gives +2 military might, no political. It is restricted, so no more than 2 restricted attachments per character.
I want
and
this
it
card.
Has a restriction that reaction. After the attached character wins a conflict, gain 1 honor.
I want this card so badly.
Yeah. This is it's only 1 influence too, so it's going to be in 1-for-2 military skill by itself is really good cost on attachment. The gaining an extra honor, all clans are going to kind of want that because it's just one more card that they can draw next turn, right?
Yep.
And for only one influence, this could be in almost every deck. We said that a lot. Like this could be in every great deck last week.
Yeah.
Like this card is just really good. It's going to be splashed a lot.
I agree. Anybody who's focusing on trying to get that honor win as opposed to other victories is definitely going to want
to helps with that too. You don't even have to break the province. You just got to win the conflict.
Yeah, and I mean, it only enhances any military that are already really good military. And if you're weak in military and you want to cover your bases, well then congrats. This card does that too.
Do you have ready tech? Ready your character that just won an attacking conflict, and then use that same character on the defense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get the ring that lets you straighten. So I mean,
yeah.
And after that one, Fantasy Flight did me wrong and didn't give me the fiction I wanted. Instead, we just got the Death Seeker card, which is 2 fate for a 2/1 character that has the reaction after this character loses a conflict as an attacker. Sacrifice this character. Choose a character controlled by your opponent. If that character has no fate on it, discard it. Otherwise, remove 1 fate from that character. 0 glory.
Yep.
This is literally the Void Ring in a character format.
You were like, this is how the Lion do politics.
Well, I think that's why she's political, is because the Lion, obviously aren't going to be that strong with it. They gave her, it's not like thematically necessary correct at all, but her having 1 political skill for her ability makes sense because you can run her into a losing battle. Your opponent has to be really careful when he sees the Death Seeker attacking with who he or she declares as defenders. Otherwise, they could lose a card that they might value, and even if they win the battle and they have a character that does have extra fate on it, then they're not going to get that return on that fate they invested.
Well,
so.
I mean, you have to be the attacker with it though, so
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you have to be careful who you defend with.
Yeah. That's a nasty card.
Yeah.
It's good.
And then I think the only other one we saw was Ready for Battle, which is a 0 fate event and has the reaction, after an opponent's card effect or a ring effect bows a character you control, ready that character.
Yeah, very similar to the one event we had last week for the Cream, or the card that negated an event, didn't lose momentum. Basically the same thing. Line want to keep winning battles. One of the best ways to negate your opponent's skill, and Line seem to have really good military skill, is to bow their characters. This, without you losing momentum, lets you negate someone's bow action. Just really good.
Nice start to the line.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more cards next week for them when you get the article.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see if we were kind of talking about this, if we're going to see Arso or Totaries the clan champion.
Well, I realized when just looking through these cards that the picture they used when talking about the Lion, who I would have assumed would have been Ariso, was actually the Honored General. So maybe we will get Totori as the surprise champion.
Yep. I guess we'll see in the fiction that will also come out next week. That was delayed.
So the only other big thing that happened was the whole Gencon kerfuffle.
Wow.
What kerfuffle? Wasn't any problems?
A problem occurred.
I was fairly despaired on.
Use that passive voice.
I'm gonna say this right here. Is it a problem, or is it just specifically we didn't get what we want?
Well, I mean, it would be for you two to decide, right? I mean, I'm not going. Yeah. So L5R swarmed all the L5R events and left a lot of people without access to the tournaments and whatnot that seemed to really want. So when it was happening, I saw a lot of people upset, but since then, it's cooled down a bit.
Within 5 minutes, every L5R event was completely sold out.
Yeah.
Within the first 1,000 people that bought tickets for anything at Gen Con, the 325-person inaugural tournament was sold out. So a third of the first 1,000 people basically bought tickets to that, whether to flip their product on eBay because everyone knows it's the game that's in demand and they're getting it before it actually hits gaming stores, or because they actually want to play. So,
yeah, I mean, 350 is people have
huge.
Since conceded it's huge for a Gen Con.
It's super huge.
Right.
Very big number.
Right. Like their biggest release besides that was 240, I think, was Game of Thrones.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
it was Game of Thrones or Netrunner one.
Over 100 more seats, and people obviously want more, but I mean, it'll be dependent on the product that's got printed by then, and if they have the room and time to like manage even more people.
Well, here's one thing: WotC isn't going to be there. WotC literally took up like a huge part of the dealer, or not the dealer hall, but the event hall. AG always had like almost as big a thing as WotC in some years, and half the time their tables would be half full.
Yeah,
there's always dead space, and
hopefully they'll be able to use some of it.
Like, I understand that they're not really going to expand on a 350 person tournament. That's, like we said, that's a huge tournament.
Yeah, again, they need the people. They need the people on their side to help like run that.
Yep, and they're going to be selling product at the same time that the tournament's going on in the dealer hall, and other people are going to have sets that didn't get to play in that and want to play later. And when there's only 100 seats available in the quote unquote like big 2-day tournament with the top 8 and all that stuff, that's like super low. Obviously, I didn't look and see what all else that FFG has going on. Maybe they initially only had so many people that could volunteer to help run that part of the tournament. And other people had to run other games, obviously, like X-Wing and Netrunner, Lord of the Rings, all that stuff. I think they could do more like casual side tournaments, probably like they're having a casual tournament on Sunday that I also didn't get into. I didn't get into anything. I don't think Meta did either, right?
I didn't do what on the where?
You didn't get into anything? Any of the tournaments?
No, I attempted to get it in the tournament just because I wanted that. I'll completely say it. I had no expectations of actually playing in the tournament, but I did want to get a copy to actually play. I am part of the problem. But you can helpfully note that I did not succeed at my plan. So
you also weren't going to flip the product.
No, I wasn't gonna flip the product. God,
Take
no.
your promos.
No, I was gonna play it. I was definitely gonna try to play it a little bit, but the problem was that I'd already had plans to do some stuff this year prior to them. Like, I know 2 years of playing, you knew this was gonna happen, but I didn't actually know they were gonna do a tournament this year. So I'd already made plans to do some other stuff during those time slots. But I definitely wanted to get at least hold of the game to play it. So I'm going in line like everybody else, and I will kill you all.
Yeah, I want to take my little Nintendo Switch. I'm going to get up at like 6 or 7 in the morning, go sit outside that dealer hall and play Zelda for like 3 or 4 hours. And then the other people, there'll already be a huge line of FFG because those one group of people get in an hour early. So,
yep.
And I think they were implying that everyone's only going to have access to one.
That's what I've
said
seen.
From what I
Yeah. Well, I mean,
based on what they've said, because they want to have everyone get one set in their hands. So
would that also count those that got in the tournament? Like, if you get in the tournament, you're not allowed to buy one?
Probably not. I don't know how you check
that.
It
wouldn't. I think it's like they say that you still have to go and get your deck checked to make sure that you're not utilizing multiples from more than 2 core sets, because it sounds like you actually have to go somewhere, at least with the way it was written. So
yeah, they're definitely getting a core set when they sit down. It's going to be more like later on. I'm sure they're not going to have a way, but based on like how fast everyone said that Netrunner and Game of Thrones sold out, that it was sold out by like noon on Thursday. This is still the biggest run, but I bet it might not be sold out by noon, but it'll be sold out by the end of the day, probably on Thursday.
Yeah,
I'm a betting man.
If you do want to get it, you should definitely get in line for it and just prep to wait.
Yeah. So here's hoping that they have lots of stock. They can find a way to get some more room and either expand the Saturday or Friday, Saturday tournament or the Sunday tournament, or maybe add some more side events, and that people will get the chance to get those promos and get some games in and play, because a lot of people are looking forward to it. A lot of my friends who've been veterans of the card game didn't get in. I literally clicked the button right when it hit noon, and I was 5,000th in queue.
You and so many other people clicked that button at noon.
Yep. So, we didn't look out, Meta.
No,
so
I
it
didn't.
goes. Maybe
If it makes you feel better, though, I know for a fact, having talked with some of the people who help staff this whole event for Gen Con and work with the hotels, that if you didn't get in there on time, don't feel bad. This Gen Con is going to be bloody huge.
It's their 50th.
It's their
right?
it's their 50th, but not only that, they were very underprepared for the amount of people that were going to come just because it said 50th Gen Con. So that would explain it explains why the housing was done with in 2 hours time when they opened up.
Oh yeah.
And it'll explain why if you don't get it now, don't let that get to you, because seriously, this will be a huge Gen Con. There will be a lot of people there.
Basically, I'll be happy now if I get my hands on a set. And if I do, I'll go play in non-FFG tournaments, because I think some of the L5R communities already talked about doing actual at hotel tournaments and stuff. Because there's the L5R hotel basically every year where everyone just meets up and plays together. So I'll at least go do that.
All right,
Tetsuo, what's your topic?
Well, before I get into my topic, I had a question for everybody.
I don't want to answer.
I like sake the best.
So, taking those into account, let me add those into my notes real quick.
I'm sorry.
What I was going to ask was for if you had been a fan of the old Jet Set Radio games, raise your hand.
Never played them.
You can't see me raise my hand.
But I know you are.
Well, I'm not. I never played Jet Set Radio.
I'm raising my hand.
Look at Teacher's pet over there.
I love the music from Jet Set Radio.
Understand the concept of love.
Love.
Oh my
Who
god.
doesn't
What
love
is
music?
love?
That's the real question. Anyway, so where I was going with this, I think the early access opened for a game called Hover Revolt of Gamers, herefore going to be referred to as Hover because that is a little bit of an unwieldy name. So it was an early access game that opened for early access back in 2015, I think late 2015. But as a game, it was either the 30th or the 31st. I don't remember which day it was. I want to say it was the 31st. So it's only been out for a little over 24 hours now. So of course, when I got off work today, I picked up a copy of it and I played about an hour and a half of it, and it's definitely the spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio that it's kind of been heralded as.
Is it the same developers, or just someone with a love for the game that kind of ran with it?
Kind of a little bit of both. The studio that was developing it were very much fans of the original. I want to say they had one or two people on their team that was from the original, but don't quote me on that. I was trying to find that, and I couldn't find conclusive answers on that. However, the guy that did the music for the Jet Set Radio games worked on a few of the songs for Hover. It definitely shines through. It definitely keeps that charmed aspect of Jet Set Radio that very similar, but it's not a blatant ripoff. It's not just a rehashing of this thing that everybody's enjoying it because of the nostalgia factor. It definitely is its own entity. It definitely stands on its own two legs.
It's open world, right?
Yes, it is open world. There is a slight leveling system to it, but it's not a heavy leveling system. And so if you wanted to, you can run around anywhere, wherever you want to go and grab whatever missions you want to grab and just kind of do whatever you want to do in whatever order you want to do it in. There's different types of missions that you can spec out to, and that's more so when you level up, you'll unlock these nodes that you can put things in, and however you decide to fill up those nodes will determine what you're better in. So you could be better in speed and acceleration, grinding, jumping, whatever.
What's the gameplay exactly? Because I never played Jet Set Radio, so I don't know anything about the gameplay.
Jet Set Radio itself was kind of almost a love note to counterculture subculture. You played a character. It's been so long. This is going to be really awkward trying to describe Jet Set Radio because it's been so long since I played that game for the story. But essentially, you were a rollerblader going throughout the city, and one of the major aspects of the game was to spray graffiti tags over certain establishment features. So, there was a police officer that was trying to chase you down and stuff because you were having too much fun or something like that. there was a radio part of your group that you were part of. You had like a pirate radio station that was pretty much talking like more truths than what necessarily the establishment wanted the general populace to know. You know, that kind of feel.
So is it like Tony Hawk kind of gameplay, or?
Yeah. Similar to Tony Hawk. You definitely had the rollerblading, the grinding, you know, doing tricks, but the tricks were much more limited. It wasn't specifically about the skating aspect.
Yeah, the first one Jet Set Radio had, it was like timed levels, I think, where you had to go through and hit all the tags.
Yeah.
Then
or before somebody else would hit their tags, you know, that type of thing.
And then the Jet Set Radio Future on the Xbox was kind of more open-y.
Yeah.
You could skate around and find the missions and races and stuff.
And if you wanted to just like spend hours just skating around the city, you could.
Yep.
I don't think that was as much available in the original one.
No,
they were,
it wasn't.
Time levels.
So less arcadey, basically, for the Xbox One.
And then, so that carries over to Hover. It's not skating, but it's free running and parkour. You actually do have like this, I don't know, insert futuristic sci-fi city here. It's very, very pretty.
Very colorful.
Very colorful. In that same cel-shaded way that the original Jet Sets were. It's very cel-shaded, or at least in look. And lots of neon everywhere. Lots of neon lights. Definitely like 1980s sci-fi city. But the story goes that city on this planet, this manufacturing planet, and the mayor of your city has decided that in order to increase efficiency of your city's manufacturing, no fun is allowed to be had.
No
because if you're having fun, you're not being efficient production. No, like literally, there's posters that say no fun allowed. And so
my God.
The counterculture that you're a part of is trying to say, screw you guys, we're going to have fun however we want to have fun.
It's like Footloose over here.
Yeah, kind of. Like that's legitimately the quote unquote story to it. And I say quote unquote story because a lot of it is that same kind of environmental storytelling that we were talking about with Prey, but not as, I don't want to say not as well done, but not as it doesn't have a main story to plug it all into. It's mostly background story as you pick up those little pieces. As you talk to different, because you can talk to like most of the people walking around the city. They'll give you some aspect into their lives. You know, there's a lot of little things like that. And again, this is also coming from the perspective of only playing about an hour and a half of it, so I don't know how much scarce that becomes later on in the game. But that's the counterculture that you're a part of. Is you're trying to bring fun back to a drab city, which again, one of the interesting things is it's very colorful, very neon. They're not allowed to have fun. It is illegal to have fun. And so your group, the gamers, are trying to bring gaming specifically actually to the people. They have a game sphere, which is like, it's like a Xbox, but it's a sphere. And certain missions will revolve around those. Trying to deliver them to people, or even playing a ball game with the console, which doesn't sound like that's too healthy for the console, but there's totally one of the types of missions that you can do is essentially a cross between basketball and soccer, where you pick up the ball and you're just trying to throw it into scoring areas.
Making it sound like arms there, Tess.
But not really.
I mean,
yeah, I can see how you.
Bad joke.
I'm moving through here. I'm kind of looking at some of the concept art for this, some of the stuff as you guys have been talking, and I gotta say, it is. If you love colors, if you love bright and bold stuff, I would definitely say check it out. It is definitely a rainbow, and
yeah.
And it's actually pretty neat. Like seeing some of the animations, what they've done, because they've got like alpha stuff. You can go actually check them out on their Kickstarter page for it and everything. But seeing some of the stuff that they've done on there so far, it's pretty neat. There's a lot. You definitely feel speedy. You'll definitely feel like you're moving around from point A to point B. So if you were worried that I'm gonna play this game, but I might not require some reaction time and whatnot. No, if the preview stuff that they were showing here is any indication, you will definitely be quick on your feet and. You will need to be good at what you do if you want to be successful at it fully.
And on that note, one of the biggest complaints I've seen about this, and I can understand it, is that the controls are clunky. I don't think they are. I've been playing with a gamepad, though. I haven't been playing with keyboard and mouse, but even with keyboard and mouse, the way the key layout looks like, it doesn't look like it's that clunky. But I think the reason why it feels clunky is because you do feel like, even though you feel fast, you do feel like you're speeding through. There's even like a little speedometer at the bottom, and you can be running, you can get close to like 50 mile an hour while you're running. Which is crazy to think about. But it's not going to have the same type of... It has its own fluidity, but it's a different type of fluidity than what you had in Jet Set Radio. Because you're not rollerblading, you're parkouring, you're free running. And so there is that fundamental difference. So once you get your mind kind of wrapped around that, as opposed to the rollerblading, you feel like you're going even faster. Because I guess your mindset just gets into the right fluidity. Use that word multiple times.
You have it on PlayStation, right? PS4?
No, I got it on
PC.
PC. It's still yet. I don't think they've announced. I think they said just Q4 for PlayStation and for Xbox. But they are planning eventually to bring it to them.
And as far as at least on PC goes, it's fairly cheap.
Oh yeah, right now it's I think 20% off, so it's $15.
Yeah,
I think is what it is.
like that.
Wow.
It's a little French company, so.
Oh, it's a French. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a French company. One
of the other big complaints that I've seen about it, and I know I can oftentimes be vocal about not belittling other people's complaints, but not finding as much of a problem in them as other people do. But the customization for your character, at least at the beginning, is next to none. You can choose a male or a female, and that's it. You don't get to modify the clothes. I think there's like 10 characters you can unlock as you play to fit into your crew, and so you can choose to be one of the other ones later on. But what you can do is you can customize their clothing, and there's, I think, 5 different color areas on the body that you can change. One of them is a neon color, so you have as you're running, you'll have like a glow streak behind you, so that you have that color, and then your other 4. But even that color palette is definitely it's not like tiny, but we've gotten, I think at this point in time as gamers, we've gotten used to having a lot of customization available to us.
Yeah, and they probably didn't focus too much on it in development.
Yeah. And to be fair though, too, I think that some colors would be a little weird in the way that the uber neon, uber colorful black you can choose. It's like a black that like sucks all light out, and in that way it stands out and is colorful. Like, I know it's weird to describe black as colorful, but their black is colorful. like I guess
it's just all about the way they use it, I guess.
Yeah, it's the saturation. But like some of the other colors are less saturated, but they still have that weight of presence that you get with a highly saturated color. Yeah, it definitely is limited. I do wish that there was a little bit more to the customization at the beginning, but I do get that gives you stuff to reach towards, and I don't know if the palette will grow any. I would think that would be weird if the palette grew any, but I don't know, it might be possible.
How'd you actually find out about the game? I hadn't even heard of it.
Actually,
when you were talking about it, I was like, what is he talking about?
There was a few months ago when I think we were playing For Honor or something, the 4 of us were, and Mal mentioned loving the soundtrack to Jet Set Radio. And so I jumped on looking, and then I was like,
because it's amazing.
Yeah, but like I was like looking for to see like what happened to the games, to see if maybe they did a remake for the PS4 or something that I could pick up, because my wife had never played them. And that was actually when I ran across the early access, and then I just kind of have kept my eye on it. And then Mao mentioned it again today, and I was like, oh yeah, how's that been doing? And come to find out it released.
Yeah, I posted the release trailer in our chat.
Yeah, man, there you go. And it's not expensive, so I mean, that's a pretty good ease of access for people.
I would probably, if it probably grabbed my interest personally more, I potentially just give it a test drive just to see, because I never played Jet Set Radio, so if this is an homage to it, I can at least get an idea of what Jet Set Radio might have been like. I take that carefully, because this game is not that game, so
yeah.
But it looks interesting, if nothing else.
One of the other things that was a pleasant surprise to me, which is, I feel really weird for saying that because it's a style of game I don't like necessarily, in common with its feel with MMORPGs. And what I mean by that is the way the and the side quests. So you have a bunch of main quests, but there's all kinds of branching side quests you can do, and you never know when you're going to run into a guy with a question mark over his head, to go do something for him. But then you can do this all single player, or you can be online, and when you're online, just people are jumping in and out all over the place, which I found really amazing, because I was like playing with like 20 plus people on my instance alone, and I was like, okay, this is more people than I was expecting to have present. And you can get together with them, so whenever you start a quest, it'll like pause, and so it'll give people a little bit of a moment to jump in and also join the quest with you. But yeah, it has a bit of an MMO feel to it, if that makes sense in that regard. So you can like play with people and stuff.
It's not like completely massive though, is it? Is it like an 8-person group or something, or is it
you can turn it off completely?
Yeah, you can turn it off completely, but I want to say it was like there was like 15 or 20 of us in my instance earlier today. So there was a good number of people.
Run into each other and knock each other down. And all that good stuff.
Well,
do parkour tricks over each other's heads.
Like, that's the other thing, is like, even though the square footage, so to say, is not necessarily huge for the city, it's definitely layered up. There's a lot of verticality to it, and it's very densely packed. So there's a lot of places you can go, even though necessarily huge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I gotcha. So it sounds like, you're still only a few hours in, but something you're obviously going to keep checking out.
Yep. I definitely recommend it if you were a fan of Jet Set Radio, or if you're a fan of just doing stuff to that style of music. And in fact, I think they have the soundtrack for sale, which I would definitely say check out the soundtrack if you love the music, because it's.
I think you can even check out the guy who worked on Jet Set Radio's original soundtrack. He's got some of the songs from this on his SoundCloud.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm gonna look some of that up.
Do you have his name?
Because I love the music.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll find it later, and we'll share it with you guys what it is. But if you're not played the Jet Set Radios, I don't know that I necessarily recommend it, just because it does kind of go back to them. It is fun. I do think it's something that everybody should at least take a look at, and if it slightly piques your interest. Again, it's $15. It's not too bad to pick up a game if you only get an hour and a half's worth of play out of it. It's not as big a deal if you had bought like a $60 game and only got an hour and a half worth of play. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's definitely fun. I'm having fun. So.
All right, if you like Jet Set Radio, go check it out, people. All right, Mel, what's your topic?
Oh, man, let me tell you. Are you psyched for E3? Because I'm a little bit psyched for E3.
Always.
Dude.
I'm in a constant state of psychage for the next E3.
Dude, we're also
E3?
We're also looking forward.
Don't even start with me, Tess.
So here's our prediction show, right, Meta?
Yeah, this is our predictions for what we're going to see at E3. Or we could do one better and actually talk about the shit we don't need to see at E3. Because it keeps happening, and it keeps going on, and I'm getting a little bit tired of it. So,
what are you getting tired of, bud?
Oh, let me count the ways I'm getting tired of it. E3 is always like a big time for gaming and whatnot. If you haven't ever heard of E3, it's Electronic Entertainment Expo. It is essentially every year top companies come around from across the globe. They present their next latest and greatest things, so that they really want to get hype up for and whatnot, and they throw it at the crowds, and everybody eats it up, and it's a great time, and we're all like, oh my god, I can't wait for this. And then 15 years later, they finally release their product. Which kind of brings me.
We are just talking about Square.
I know, right? Which I want to get into, and I'm going to cover some things. There's some bad habits E3 has started to get into lately. Over the past, I would say 5 years or so. Although honestly, it goes longer than that. But it's started to become, I guess, most notable in this time period, and it's partly because I guess I've started to watch and pay attention more closely, and partly because this shit has been going on for longer than it, and it now just seems like this is just the norm, and it shouldn't be there anymore. A big issue I have is we see games coming to Electronic Entertainment Expo E3, and it's just a cinematic. I'm tired of this. There are too many games where it comes out with some cinematic, they throw it up in E3, everybody eats it up, and then the final product tends to either be problematic when it comes out, or not that great, or what they show now doesn't end up being anything like the product that they finally release out. I mean, if you just want to look back at 2010, for instance, 7 years ago, there was the Devil May Cry reboot that was posted up there. That final product and what was shown in that cinematic and a lot of the stuff that came out in the final thing have nothing to do with each other anymore, except for maybe the main character looking exactly the same, if with some stylistic changes and whatnot. You could look at Dead Island, which came out in 2011. That was the E3 trailer for it. It was the backwards video of essentially showing the family getting attacked by zombies and seeing how they kind of start everything with that. When the game released, it required a huge patch because apparently the released version that got to people on CDs or downloaded was actually a beta version that had tons of changes that they needed to put back into the game that everybody required to download. If you want to look at 2014, you can remember a little game that everybody knows and loves so much called No Man's Sky. That had yeah, you remember that game. You had
Where are my giant sandworms? Where are they?
They're gone, wow. They're dead with the dream. Remember that game? The E3 trailer for that was freaking fantastic. They even tagged it as a gameplay trailer, which is horseshit and something else I'm going to talk about in a moment here. It was not. That game came out. It was nothing like that trailer. It was horrible. And then you have, in 2015, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. That came, you have probably one of the biggest things that people have been asking for in generations. You can literally see reaction trailers of people who are covering live and freaking out themselves about the fact that this is literally happening. It's real.
I don't know why they would.
It's honestly, nobody really wanted this game, honestly. But now we're 2 years later, we've had like one update on it, and apparently now they're scrapping some of the stuff in favor of the fact that yours truly, who's running it, the producer, he didn't really like how it was presented. It was a little bit too much of the outside team that they were working with. He said, it's a little much too much them. I want to make it more like Square Enix. So if it's going to be anything more like Square Enix in recent years, expect it to come out, and I would guess 2027.
Well, it's more harrowing is that the other day they said they literally just started development on it.
Yeah.
They announced the game 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, internal, because apparently the issue was that it was being externally developed.
Yeah.
No, they said they literally like started working like on the meat and potatoes of the game. It was like a few weeks ago. And everybody was like, oh no.
So like for Final, I mean like that's an issue in itself. But at least Final Fantasy VII, the remake showed you like what they wanted to do for combat, or at least gameplay stuff. So much more than just a long cinematic for things, and more recent stuff. But even so, like that E3 trailer, like now we have no idea where this is going. My point kind of is getting to is you can't just throw these trailers at us and then just be like, oh, hey, down the line, this is what it actually comes out to be. We need to stop getting hyped about this. It needs to kind of stop. Show us an actual gameplay thing. Show us actually what's in development. I get like the whole point is to sometimes build the hype, sometimes to kind of, get people to know that, hey, the product is coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
I think...
Yeah, go, please. I'm here.
I was going to say, I think this is probably it's part of the only thing I hate is that just games are getting announced too soon.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it took, Final Fantasy 15 took 10 years. I remember the first E3 when it was revealed as part of the Final Fantasy 13 universe.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember too.
Yeah, so just so many games, they'll be like, you'll just get a screenshot, or maybe if you're lucky, some kind of cinematic trailer, and then years go by before it comes out. And I would much prefer more, not all necessarily, but more to follow Fallout 4 style of, hey, it's going to be out in a few months.
Yeah, that was actually pretty fun.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
So you're telling me Meta here in like another year or so, when we get Death Stranding and there's no like babies in the game, you're going to be upset.
I'm going to be very upset.
Because all the trailers have had.
I expect to be a dead pile of babies in that game.
We have Guillermo del Toro holding a baby.
If I don't see
Norman Reedus holding a baby.
I swear to God, if I don't see one baby in that game, I'm gonna fucking mail myself to them. And I'm gonna pop out of that box with a baseball bat and start swinging.
That one gets a pass because he's trying to be all surreal and stuff.
Yeah, it's just funny.
Though again, it might take longer. Like if it's 5 years and then it comes out, that's something we'll find annoying.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, like, if you want to give it, like, it's to another issue that we kind of see is that we'll see games that just don't have a lot, like, they'll turn out to be really decent games, but they don't have a lot of weight to them. If you remember Star Wars Battlefront, when it got announced via DICE, was phenomenal.
Riding off the laurels of the previous one.
Oh, yeah, but now the game has been out for 2 years. They've already announced, and not even technically, it'll be just literally 2 years when the second iteration they've already announced is going to be out in the same month's time, November of this year. That's a little bit ridiculous. When you look back at the game of Star Wars Battlefront, there wasn't a lot of meat to it. There wasn't.
No, it really wasn't.
It did not hook me. I loved the game. It looks beautiful, but there's nothing to it. There's no substance. Now, this has been a known issue with DICE in just general, but I don't think this should be a trend that we want to see where we get these great, phenomenal things, and then we end up getting some game that comes out, and there's just not a lot of meat. There's tons of bread surrounding it, but when you actually want to get to, the real juicy part, the part that, would cost more, suddenly it's missing.
Well, it comes down to being an informed buyer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
People live off trailers. They'll watch a trailer and they won't watch a hint of gameplay before a game comes out and still buy it based on the trailer they saw at E3 until people start speaking with their wallets. I mean, this is the shit we're going to get year in and year out. We're not going to see gameplay in trailers because the developers know that their games are still going to sell out the wazoo. All they have to do is put Battlefront on the screen, or hey, here's Final Fantasy VII. We're just going to announce it here to get everybody hopped up, and it's not going to be out for 6 more years. Same with Kingdom Hearts, all that stuff.
Where's Kingdom Hearts 3? I played Kingdom Hearts 2 on the PS2. Where's my 3 obs?
Not on PS3.
Not on PS3.
Maybe not 4 at this point.
Yeah, I know, right? It may not even be on 4. Jeebus.
So yeah, it's just the culture and how, like, the gaming community as a whole consumes games. They're gonna have to completely change their habits before this really changes.
I mean, it's not a new. This isn't like a new problem. I'm not bringing anything new to the table, but it's such an old. It's such an old symptom we've seen that it kind of just gets frustrating to see it delve into everything that we consume at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm with you completely, man. I'm getting tired of even what was the zombie game that would come out for PS4 last year? They announced,
wasn't it?
The guy with the Bacher, Days Gone. It's like
Days Gone.
At least they showed gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, I think, did Sony last year show no gameplay? Like, what was it? They led with God of War.
God of War had some gameplay.
They had gameplay, and not all their games that they showed last year are out yet, but I mean, a large portion of them came out, I believe, in the last year.
And there was distinct gameplay in those.
Well, here's something else that I want to make mention of, and this kind of goes delving deeper into the problem as well, is that we'll see gameplay, but a lot of times it's scripted gameplay.
Yeah.
What is that?
I think the God of War was fairly scripted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
You're not showing me actual gameplay then. And I mean, once you're getting into the gameplay stuff, I get like they've already invested, and to show us now, they might end up taking a hit, but you can't, going into it, if you show me gameplay and I'm watching it, it starts to become really jarring when you can start to tell the way the camera moves, the way the person might be, moving the stick, and then how it's actually scanning and scoping and moving in the way that it does, and the actions that are taking place. It's very clear that it's almost like he was just put up there to pretend he's playing, while it's just showing us a video.
See, I think that kind of makes sense for E3 at least, because it is a showcase. Like, they're trying to show off certain parts of the game, not necessarily...
But tell us it's a video of gameplay rather than have a guy up there who's pretending to wiggle a stick.
I'm not... if a guy's going to sit on the edge of this, in some seat and pretend to play the game, don't bring him out there. You don't need to tell me that. Just say that, hey, this is a scripted scene.
If he's not playing, he doesn't need to be out there.
Yeah.
I have no issue with scripted scenes, though. The
scripted scenes I don't mind.
They don't... To have something fail, at E3 live, when you only have an hour, would be pretty bad.
Yeah.
And not to be a complete Nintendo fanboy here, but I am going to say that Nintendo does a pretty good job about telling you about a game that they're working on, and then it comes out half a year later, and they'll show you gameplay of it right when they announce the game.
I gotta admit, every time I've actually rewatched some of the Nintendo the Nintendo ones, and they're always enjoyable to watch. It's
they always do something dumb that's really fun.
That's exactly the point. They realize
don't
exactly
do
who they're
live
catering to.
presentations, though, right?
No, not really.
Not really.
So
like they had the puppet show.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was
The puppet
great.
show was hilarious.
The one where
Reggie's just really great.
Yeah, the nondescript action figure guy.
yeah, the nondescript action figure guy. Those skits
Yeah,
they
figured it out.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like this is. I look to those and I'll rewatch those because they're funny because I remember them and I'll be like, oh yeah, they got the products that come with them, so I'll end up seeing the products again too, and I'll get reminded of them. Don't do that for any of the other guys. I mean, one of the most jarring things, literally most jarring things is when they bring on like a team. It's like, all right, we're going to have some guys play the game and show you what's going on. And then you hear them like going up stage, you're like, all right, guys, I'm going in. Follow me. And I'm like, could you give that any stiffer, please? It'd be a hard drink. It'd be a hard shot of a liquor or something.
Oh man,
That's really jarring.
I don't know. It's the nature of live, I think.
Yeah.
Because like Nintendo they just decided, screw it, we're not going to do it live. And
it turns out to be the best one.
yeah. Though I do think Sony started, or at least last year, they tried to like play up the showmanship of it with like the whole live orchestra and stuff going on.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Their thing was good last year. Their like show part of it.
I think they'd had perhaps the best live show last year.
Yeah,
I could probably agree with that.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Hey man,
Whatever,
it could be
stuff.
worse. It could be Xbox, and you could just show up at E3 with no games.
Ooh.
Or games get canceled like 6 months later.
Or
But hey, we have this
you could
new,
be like
insanely
Konami.
awesome hardware.
They don't allow pachinko machines at E3. I think.
Wow.
Well, they still had a booth apparently, and like one,
Wow.
I think it was like one soccer game or something they had. Like it was dead. Whew.
That's what most people. I have a friend who has a Xbox One. He's like, I was like, why did you get that? I'm not like trying to like give you shit or anything. Just just trying to get into your head why you bought the Xbox over the PlayStation or whatever. Because he likes games like Uncharted and Last of Us. He loves Naughty Dog. So I was like, those aren't on there, right? Why do you get that? And he's like, oh, I play FIFA and these tennis games and stuff. It's the very like, I'm the casual, like I like to play sports games. I'm a holdover from like the 360 era.
It's
Like,
Yeah,
I
they
don't
got a
really
lot
play
of-
anything else. Is kind of who they sell a lot to.
They won the 360 was the superior machine.
Oh, it just
Oh, yeah.
Had a lot.
Oh yeah,
They had a lot of
it's
holdover.
almost kind of funny how it flip flop when the PS2 was out. PS2 was the king, but then 360 came along and it took the place of like just games that were there, et cetera. But now it's flipping back to PS4.
They both ran into they both relied on the previous generation too much and
Yeah.
lost it.
Agreed.
But I
Yeah.
mean, plenty of Xbox One users just continue. They're like, the Xbox 360 was great. Let's get the Xbox One. Like, I don't know. A lot of the early game, or a lot of the first year or so of the didn't have great games on either side.
But yeah, that's just that is some stuff I do not want to see at E3 anymore. I would like to move away from that. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm
Sounds
just
like we all
Yeah.
pretty much agree with you there.
yeah, it's
That's exactly
It would
what
just-
I had almost on my notes.
It would be very nice to just kind of see them move back into it's like, look, I get it's a trailer. I get it's kind of like your chance to really show something off that's cool, but give me more meat. I don't mind if you want to, throw at me like a salad or some bread to start the meal, but when we get to that entree, please show me the entree and not a picture of it.
Show me the beef.
Show me the
Whatever
beef.
that-
If I ordered a steak, don't give me a veggie burger.
Yeah.
I want to know real quick what everyone's looking forward to, because I don't remember the exact date of E3, but I don't think
Final
this
Fantasy
episode
VII.
this episode will come out, but we won't have the next one. So, what's one game everyone wants to see at E3?
Final Fantasy VII.
That ain't
I know.
happening. One game, I don't know.
I don't know.
BioWare's got a new IP coming out.
That's what I was gonna say. I want to see the new BioWare IP.
Hopefully, I checked the timeline, and I'm hoping they do what they did with Fallout, and they're just like Elder Scrolls 6 later this year, because it's the right time for them to announce it or come out even.
Well, they
What
just
about-
recently had an expansion though for the Elder Scrolls.
I don't count that because I don't want to.
I
I'm
am
guessing Tets is gonna say Destiny 2.
Yeah, I want to see more Destiny 2 stuff. I don't know how much we're going to see, though, that's going to be new or majorly informative, but I still want to see it.
You could get a story trailer or something at the least.
Guys,
Yeah, well, anything that gives me more Cade 6 makes me happy, so.
clearly the game that we all want to see that you're all forgetting is Sonic Forces.
Dude, I want to see those OC Sonic.
I want to see those
characters
OC
running
Sonic
around with
characters.
tails and
We're
knuckles.
gonna lose Obs once that game comes out. All he's gonna be doing.
Shout outs to bad Sonic fan art on Twitter.
Oh my
Who provides me hours of entertainment that I torture Meta with in our chat.
fucking links
For
it
us.
all the time, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
why,
it's
Obs?
so
bad.
Why
It's
do you
so
hate me?
bad.
Have I wronged you some way?
It's mystifying. I could do a whole podcast topic on this.
Please
Why do
don't.
Why is it Sonic the Hedgehog of all like IPs?
They
people
have
draw
all
these
these
weird-
fan base.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Holy
Hey,
moly!
I know an untitled Need for Speed game is coming out, so I'm hoping that it'll be Need for Speed
Oh.
3.
Underground.
Underground. Exactly.
I think
More
that gets
Underground.
revealed tomorrow. I think.
Does it?
Yeah, I think I saw something on that.
Oh my.
So by the time this already comes out, I also remember this big rumor for Bloodborne 2. So
Yes.
Oh, Bloodborne
yes,
2.
Bloodborne 2.
Bloodborne 2.
That is, if there's nothing about an actual Devil May Cry sequel to the main series and not the shitty reboot, then Bloodborne 2 is probably the biggest thing I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, Bloodborne, my favorite game probably ever. So
On that note, like, I would love to see something from Software. Like, anything from them.
Yes.
Hopefully in the genre of giant mecha.
Yes.
But I'm not partial to that. I just want to see more from Software stuff at E3.
yeah, Bloodborne 2.
I really want that studio to like do more.
Well,
Yeah.
I think they're working on at least 2 games.
Bloodcore? Armorborn?
Bloodcore
I take it.
Armorborn.
I take it.
I would play the crap out of that game.
Yeah.
Damn straight.
Giant mecha with like Eldritch Cthulhu kind of base
It's actually
lore
mecha
and
versus
whatnot.
kaiju, but it's
Yeah.
Lovecraftian.
It'd
There
be
you go.
amazing.
Shouts to Mecha versus Kaiju.
All right.
Which will be coming out shortly.
That's enough of
let's
my
get on to my
complaint.
topic. We'll kind of just breeze through this because I had a question for all you guys. I was thinking about today at work, like more monthly modules that we could possibly do down the road. And there's a game called Exalted, which I have this real love-hate relationship with. So we're talking tabletop RPG games, obviously. If you don't know what our monthly modules is, where we all get together and every month play a different game, usually a module of a game.
We just
So I was
wrapped up L5R this month, correct?
Yep.
We posted the last video.
Yep, so you can watch that whole thing now, youtube.com/podcast 5 rings. There's our plug. I was thinking about Exalted. It's a game I really have a love-hate relationship with just because the lore is so deep and so cool and so awesome. There's all these like factions that are against each other and the setting's just super rich, but mechanically the game is like busted and doesn't really work.
That sounds
So-
familiar.
Yeah, so on a scale that's almost unrivaled, the only game I can think of that compares to what I just said about Exalted, the things I like and hate about it is Rifts, is a more like busted garbage role-playing system. So I was kind of curious if you guys had like a love-hate relationship with any kind of tabletop RPG. Let's start with you, Tets, because I think you said yours is controversial.
Oh, I can go last because part of my problem is I have a RPG collection, a ever-growing. Actually, I think since we started monthly modules, I've gained 5 new books for my RPG collection.
Nice.
I will probably never play the majority of them. I just really like them. I love reading the books. I love reading through the systems. I have a love-hate relationship with the exception of D&D and Pathfinder. I don't really like them, but I want to like them, especially 3.5, which makes sense with Pathfinder.
It's totally understandable.
Well, so like all of my reasons for not liking them, like there's other systems that are worse about that I am fine with. Like I'm not a huge fan of the crunch. I'm not a huge fan of getting overly tactical. I prefer sci-fi over fantasy, but none of those one things are necessarily make it or break it for me. And I still enjoy D&D and Pathfinder, don't get me wrong. That's why I say it's a love-hate relationship. It's just, I kind of internally groan a little bit when, like, that's all that the RPG community talks about. It's like, but there's so many other things. And I don't know how much it's the hipster effect. To be perfectly honest, it may be a little bit of a hipster effect that everybody plays D&D and Pathfinder.
The hipster
Like-
effect.
I have the opposite problem because I can't get anyone around here to play either of those games.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like, because my friend who's a GM doesn't like running D&D because people usually don't invest into like a rich backstory of their character or something. My local tabletop group, we're all pretty good about that. And he ran like a huge D&D game that was like a year and a half long, which is huge for us. I know it's not like big in the big picture, but most of our games last like 6 or 7 months. So to have like a year and a half long D&D game where we actually all had these like really cool, deep characters, even like the person that we have in our group who usually doesn't make super deep connected to the plot characters actually made one, which surprised him. So maybe he'll do more of it in the future. But he was always like, I don't like running D&D because it just turns into, let's go to the dungeon, kill the stuff, and get our gear. And I think there's some really good stories you can tell with the system. So
yeah,
just depends on your group.
I think that's part of it. Is like I'm not that I've had problems with this in the past because I haven't, but I'm always worried that D&D is going to come down to min-maxing. And again, it's an unfair thing that I've attached to D&D in my mind, and I don't really know where it came from. But I always, whenever I think about min-maxing in RPGs, it's always D&D and Pathfinder. Like, to me, those two are really min-max abusive, which, again, doesn't make sense because there's a lot of other games that you can be much worse about it on.
Well, that kind of ties into my issue, or my choice, which is also D&D. But they have so many options that you can literally build the scope. 3.5 as a tier system, and you can build there are just trap choices. They're awful choices. You should not choose them because they do like practically nothing.
Sam.
Yeah, 3.5 is basically my love-hate. I love all the character options, and I hate a lot of the character options.
The splat for that version is so wide and large. Oh my god.
Mainly, I love building character, like I love all the classes and prestige classes, but when it comes down to like feats, there's a lot of crap.
Oh yeah.
Which is why I think some people rely too much on min-maxing, just because if you're not at least wary about it, you could just think you could take something that sounds cool and is actually just the worst.
Yep.
I think another problem with what you're talking about, Mal, is that I also know for a fact that 3.5 had a lot of balance issues, not only from the player's side, from all the options that there were, and because of the open license and whatnot, but from also the creature side. There's some notorious creatures that are known to be way higher level than they should have been.
The original 3.0 balance was so bad that they had to come out with 3.5.
Yeah. So
and then they got Pathfinder as 3.75, which I think does an even better job with the rules side.
That's why you play 5th edition, man.
I love 5th edition. But it's probably my favorite now. Just I wish there were more character options. That's why my love-hate option is with 3.5. And I've not played a ton of other RPGs. So
what about you, Meta?
I'm the odd man out, and my choice is actually L5R. That's the one I've got the most love-hate relationship with. I love me some Magical Samurai, but gosh dang it, do I not like a lot of the information written for 4th edition. I'm not even going to talk about 3, 2nd, or 1st because I don't know anything about those. But 4th edition...
Let me tell you.
No, please don't. 4th edition, like some of the biggest problems is that I started off with Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 and...
by the stuff written, do you mean rule side or flavor side?
A little bit of both. It's actually just a lot of both, truth be told. I actually like really tactical stuff. I love getting into the nitty gritty. I love coming with a brilliant strategy.
Me too.
I love working with my allies and be like, all right, if you do this, I'll cover you here. If you can go around here, I will make you the king of this moment. And I love doing that kind of stuff with my allies. That does require a lot of rules, and L5R, that's not always the case. L5R has some really weird rulings, not only where those rules are, but sometimes the rules are missing, like the infamous Moto Bushi, which is you can wield two-handed weapons in one hand, but it's almost no weapon has two-handed except for specifically heavy weapons and bows, and you won't find out that bows are technically mandatory two-hand unless you read something else that links back to bows. It's not even stated by bows itself that they need to be wielded two hands, even though we all know, well, duh, but the rules don't say that, which is really weird. And that's just an example of it. I see a lot of rules and stuff that aren't always touched on. So then your GM is always like, well, shit, there's nothing there for it, or it doesn't totally make sense. So I guess I gotta pull it from somewhere. And then somebody will be like, oh no, it turns out it was actually on page so-and-so, nowhere near where you wanted it to be when you're trying to find the rule. And I just don't like that.
I want to agree with you on that, particularly on spells in L5R.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to what the GM thinks has to go. I mean, how many like raw versus RAI arguments have we gotten in just in our PvP game?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many times where like raw RAI, and it's like, well, rules is intended, but if you're playing with all these different people, you kind of have to go by raw. But raw will mean that this is broken. It's a big
I almost
mess.
feel like L5R just needs DMs need to take a really hard line, like, and make, this is what I'm saying. Don't question it.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
You kind of have to, and it's unfortunate because it means that like when you go into the game, I mean, I'll recommend this for any game you go into, but if you go into a game, sit down with your GM and like, okay, this is my game plan. Am I going to run into a wall because of our interpretations of things? I mean, that's got to kind of go for the start.
Measure upward distance with hypotenuse.
The infamous if I cast the fire spell on my battle maiden who's riding the horse, does it hurt my horse?
Does it hurt my horse?
Which for our game started a minor shitstorm.
It did.
The horse clearly wields the
horse does wield
battle maiden. You cast
like
it
a
on
katana of fire. Am I right? That completely.
So you cast it on the horse. That way, it makes it immune to the rider.
Exactly.
Yep. As long as the horse is wielding the maiden in its mouth.
As long as you're wielding these things, they're not on fire. But the moment you drop them, they're singeing them.
Yeah, these are the rules that you may run across in L5R that your GM has to rule on.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And then there's just from the flavor side, just from the lore perspective of some stuff, I really hate some of the things that makes it really hard to get into the game. Not talking about money, except commerce gives you then a mastery bonus that everything costs less, 20% less for you, but you don't talk about money. So how would you actively put that into a story? Does all the people in the market just know, oh shit, that guy's got 5 on commerce, I have to drop my price 20% for this dude? I mean, it doesn't, doesn't make sense. The kind of the moments where it is Japan, where it's not Japan, but it's very clearly almost all Japan. The mix and matching of historical moments to the fantasy of the realm, like we're in effectively an Edo period where you can't change your station, you're forever stuck there, and you just have to hope you're born into another station. But at the same time, we still do things like it's the Sengoku period before Hideyoshi decided to make that kind of law and edict when he was mastering the land. So things are really
that stuff
wishy-washy.
doesn't bother me. It's just like they're picking and choosing what they want, I guess, for this setting.
Yeah, and like again, it doesn't mind, but it's like trying to explain that to new people or bring it along.
Or the writers need it.
Oh yeah, it's like bring it
especially
along.
when people walk into it thinking I'm playing a samurai game, and so if they're knowledgeable with a lot of the samurai history, it can be a little.
I guess I don't know. I just realized quickly it was. It's not all Japan.
Yeah, it's not all Japan. Which I mean, you have to tell everybody from the start.
You gotta be upfront with that part. Yeah, like. They pick and chose from other places, so it's just its own setting that has a lot of Japanese influence.
Talking about the flavor with L5R, the books that came out, because that was Mao and mine's first experience with L5R, was the Way of Scrolls that they came out with. I think it was like was it 7 or 8 books. I can't remember.
We've
7 books,
yeah,
for the Clan War novels, right? Or are you talking about the actual RPG books?
Yeah, not the RPG, but like their actual like chapter.
Yeah,
books.
one for each clan.
But right before each chapter, or right before each book began, like after the title page, after the table of contents, it had this little blurb that said Rokugan is based off of Japan, but also incorporates elements of Korea, China, Mongolia, etc., etc. And so it kind of primed us with that because we read the books and because that was like on page 1. But if you don't have that as an introductory, you don't have that.
Yeah.
Mindset adjustment at the beginning.
I mean, there was for one of the games I was running, I actually was talking with one of our players who was starting off, and they wanted to know, like, why is EIJutsu given its own completely different system? And it's like, well, it's a different skill. But then they were like, well, yeah, but so is spears and bows and whatnot. Why aren't they given their own completely different system for format? And then it's like, well, it's because it's more of this ritualized dueling and whatnot. And they're like, well, why would I ever want to do that if I'm not focusing on that? And like, well, the way
that's like a culture that you gotta know. Yeah, so one of the probably the biggest parts of L5R is knowing all the cultural stuff.
Oh yeah,
like it's the biggest investment of any RPG I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. It kind of
What
reminds
do you mean
me.
I can't help the peasants.
I know, right? It kind of reminds me of when you were to play.
What do the heavens do?
What do the heavens do?
And this is something you guys just touched on, the kind of understanding the culture and why it works and how it's different from Western culture even is a big hurdle, even for some experienced players.
Yeah.
I mean, we ran into that in an RPBQP
Yeah,
game
we've
too,
seen just some people who just have a really hard time wrapping around the idea that you have to like set aside a modern Western culture idea, which pretty much encompasses the whole globe, and put it into
you gotta play an evil character, basically.
Yeah, you play effectively an always evil character who's just, you know, not so much as evil, but they're just working with their laws, and it turns out that their laws are kind of brutal. So
yeah.
also
maps.
God, fucking maps. Nothing.
Maps are amazing
Nothing.
in L5R. What are you talking about?
What maps?
Oh, that map book is so good. The
Atlas
is my favorite book.
The Atlas is literally a godsend. If that is what the heavens do, guys. That is what the heavens do. They give us a map.
I knew I could get Meta to ramble on about maps.
Thank you, based Robert Spooky.
Oh, Spooky, bless your heart. It was the best thing you could have ever given us.
Who needs measurements on a map?
I know, right?
Make the important things big.
It's just big, guys.
Yeah, go ahead, Meta.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's my love and hate relationship. I love the game though. I love the setting. I love the theme. I love the actions. I love the concepts. I love that in a samurai world they are still able to thematically apply so many different approaches to characters and still make them all feel like they're samurai. They just do different samurai things.
There you have it. Breaking news. Meta likes samurai.
Oh my god.
Exactly.
When?
So back to Exalted for just a second.
All right.
Right. Close us out.
Maybe one day we're going to once we get through some of our backlog of monthly modules, I can run you guys through Exalted and show you just how completely busted mechanics can be. 'Cause you're all familiar. It's a White Wolf game. So you're all familiar with
the first thing the first thing I thought of when you mentioned this and how like you like the lore but the game or the mechanics were awful was Scion, their other one.
It's basically Scion on crack.
I have never played a White Wolf game, but I am the way you're prepping me for this. I am so ready for the jank. It's not real.
Take Imperial China, mash it up. The war is basically Imperial China, mash it up with the Romans. Have basically where the Romans are all mystically empowered with the elemental power of 5 dragons, and they hunt down these people called anathema who are basically demigods, and you play the anathema who are being hunted down. You've lost a horrible war thousands of years ago, and there are people in heaven who, like L5R, give no shit about you or what you're doing. They kind of made you to be their pawns and then forgot about you. And then your chief god, the Unconquered Sun, who blesses his exalts, who are called the Solars, basically he goes, "Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about you guys. You guys need to like be heroes again and reconquer creation for me. So here's some more like exaltations." So you're basically start as a mortal person, and then through some heroic act, you become exalted. Now you're basically a demigod who there are powers that are like, you walk through armies of 50,000 soldiers and none of them can lay a scratch on you.
Good God.
There are powers that do that.
I'm gonna posit this. I kind of want to move this up in our queue because that does sound like
so
hilarious. Much entertainment. And as far as brokenness, like it sounds like it will be fun in the same way that watching like a very bad sci-fi flick is fun.
So in White Wolf, you typically it has all the stats of White Wolf, basically all the skills. You have your 5 dots and 5 skill dots. So typically, like the most you can ever roll is like 10 without powers or whatever. In Exalted, a starting level character is not good at fighting typically if he's not rolling at least like 20-something D10s on his attack roll.
Good God.
Trying to get successes.
What?
It's ridiculous.
What? Why do you need so many die?
You just do, man. Because the mechanics are completely broken.
Jesus.
It's fun. It's a fun game to play. Mechanics are really bad. Like, I think 2/3 of the book is your basically special powers, which are called charms. They have trees. There's a combo system where it's supposed to be kind of like a fighting game where you put your charms together and do like this combo that kind of like links up and stuff. It's
dear.
Neutral heavies to back threes.
All the weapons have like 8 stats on them that all do different things, and this is how all the weapons are different. It's completely insane. I'll be sure to. I have a PDF of the 2nd edition. I'll be sure to share it with you guys. But it's awesome.
Online, at one of the kind of synopsises of it, and they have this line: a silly group could turn this easily into a Kill La Kill / Gurren Lagann.
Are you reading 1D4chan?
Yes, I'm on 1D4chan.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So
read through that.
This immediately sounds amazing. I'm gonna read through that the moment we're done here.
This has been episode 12 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud. Now topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. Be sure to check us out on Twitter and Facebook. We may end up getting another spoiler for L5R by the time all this is said and done, which is where we will be posting them. Twitter, we're at Podcast 5R. Facebook, P5R Podcast. Meta has a stream. He's going to be streaming Final Fantasy 14 here soon.
Oh, yeah. I am
doing that samurai stuff.
Oh, I am so psyched for that expansion.
He's at twitch.tv/PSOflow. We're going to sign out here. This is Obsidian. We'll see you guys next week.
Kami bless everyone.
And bless us he did.
Go with the fortunes.
And make sure to check out monthly modules.
The heaven gave us maps.
Maps.
Praise the maps.